Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
Good evening. It's Friday, September 17th. Thank you for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. It's a milestone marking a tragic number and one full of sorrow. San Diego County surpassing 4,000 COVID-19 deaths. 4,000. Also tonight, major decisions made involving booster shots. But first, KPBS health reporter Matt Hoffman introduces us to a family whose son is battling a rare disease after contracting COVID and has a message for those still unvaccinated.
8-year-old Eduardo Cortez has been receiving care at Rady Children's Hospital for nearly a week after coming down with a rare disease triggered by coronavirus infections.
I thought it was like a fever, a normal fever, but everything was increasing and more and more and more and more.
Eduardo's parents had COVID in August, and it wasn't until recently that the second grader started experiencing symptoms. His condition got worse, prompting his parents to take him to the emergency room, where Eduardo had a 105-degree fever.
It was something scary for me.
Eduardo's mom was partially vaccinated, but his dad was not at all, saying he didn't think he would get the virus. Now he says that was a mistake.
It is really hard, really, really hard. It already happened to me, and I don't want to happen to anybody else, especially for the kids.
Cases of multi-system inflammatory syndrome started popping up in kids early on during the pandemic, and so far some 600 cases have been reported statewide. It causes inflammation of the heart and, while rare, can be deadly.
For Eduardo specifically, he did have a little bit of decrease in the function of his heart there in the middle of his care, but that has improved. He also had some red eyes. He had swelling of his neck and some severe neck pain, as well as severe abdominal pain and vomiting.
Eduardo is doing well after receiving treatment. His parents wish they never had to go through this ordeal.
There's a lot of coronavirus out there, and we honestly didn't think it was going to happen to us. And then in fact, it did happen to us. The sickness that our son has is really ugly. His eyes turned really red. He has marks all over his body.
The disease usually appears 2 to 6 weeks after catching the virus, and long-term effects are still unknown. Eduardo has 2 siblings who are healthy. Researchers still don't know why some kids get it and others don't. The 8-year-old's parents are hopeful that their son will be released from the hospital early next week.
My daughter asked me many times why my brother is in the hospital. But we don't want to say what was the reason, but because we don't want to scare him.
With vaccinations still not approved for those under 12, doctors say the best way to prevent the disease is for others in the household to be fully vaccinated. Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
A yes to Pfizer booster vaccines, at least for some Americans. Camila Bernal breaks down the decision.
3 COVID shots, now the recommendation for some Americans who've had the Pfizer COVID-19 vaccine.
Dr. Lee, yes. Dr. McKinnis, yes.
Vaccine advisors to the FDA voting Friday to approve a Pfizer booster shot for people 65 and older.
We do have a unanimous 18 out of 18 who voted yes.
The yes vote coming after hours of debate and presentations, and after a no vote for Americans 16 and older.
And we strongly encourage all the different viewpoints to be voiced and discussed regarding the data.
Experts at the CDC highlighting how the Delta variant affects the rate of breakthrough infections, and researchers from the UK and Israel presenting data about how giving boosters could lower the rate of breakthrough infections.
We're seeing a robust immune response that equals or greatly exceeds the response that we've seen after the second dose.
Pfizer and other researchers say their studies show people develop strong immunity after 2 doses of the vaccine, but that levels of antibodies start to drop after a few months. However, some experts are pushing back.
It's not clear to me that the data we're seeing right now is applicable and necessary general population.
I'm Camila Bernal reporting.
For the latest on the pandemic and resources, you can check out the Tracking COVID-19 section at kpbs.org. You can get there by clicking the link on our homepage. Tonight, there are allegations of sexual abuse at an exclusive San Diego private school. A lawsuit has been filed against Francis Parker School, brought by a former student who claims she was groomed and then molested by her male teacher. Here's KPBS education reporter MG Perez.
Grace Wynn is finally telling her heartbreaking story.
I was 13 years old. I was molested and I was abused. And I felt that there was no safe place at Francis Parker to speak out.
Wynn attended the prestigious Francis Parker School in Linda Vista from kindergarten to 12th grade. She graduated in 2019, delivering the commencement speech. What she was not ready to talk about at that time was her experience with Miguel Sembrano, who was a history teacher and a basketball coach for 2 years at the school, starting in 2013, when he first met Grace.
After school, he would tutor her in the classroom by themselves, rub her thighs, grabbed her butt, and did inappropriate things that should never happen to a child.
Attorneys for the Wynn family have filed a lawsuit against the Parker School, claiming negligent supervision and a breach of mandatory duty. The family claims school officials were aware of Sembrano's inappropriate behavior and did nothing about it. The lawsuit claims the school did finally terminate the teacher, but did not report the incident to child welfare or any students or parents. After being fired here at the Francis Parker School in 2015, Miguel Sembrano found one last teaching job for a short time at another local school. In 2016, he killed himself. His death closed any potential investigation by law enforcement. Late this afternoon, KPBS received this statement from the Parker School Counsel, attorney David G. Molinari. He says Francis Parker School denies the allegations contained in the lawsuit. And at this point in the process, it is important to realize that is all we have, allegations. We will put our faith in the judicial system and judicial process, as opposed to litigating on social media or outside the legal system. Francis Parker School takes all alleged incidents very seriously.
I want the school to learn, and I want the school to be better. I want them to be better and do better, and I want them to finally put students first.
Grace says she started college last year as part of her healing process. MG Perez, KPBS News.
Today, military bases around our county honored the troops who died in the bombing in Kabul and in a helicopter accident on board the USS Lincoln. KPBS military reporter Steve Walsh was at Naval Base San Diego for a moment of silence.
It was a terrible month for San Diego's military community. Captain Ted Carlson is the commander of Naval Base San Diego.
Definitely in a long time we have not seen this many service members die all at once. Obviously we are in a dangerous job, and service members do pass from time to time, either from armed conflict or just in the nature of the job that we do.
9 Marines and a sailor from Camp Pendleton were among the 13 who died August 26 during an attack outside the airport in Kabul. Less than a week later, 5 sailors died in a training accident when a helicopter from the USS Lincoln crashed off the coast. Just 2 years into his service, Joshua Holmes suggested Friday's moment of silence at Naval Base San Diego to honor all of the dead.
Everything that we've been through this past year, just to get hit deep in the month of August, it hits deep to heart in the military, because you don't ever want to hear that you've lost somebody.
Holmes is from Riverside. Several of the Marines killed in Kabul were from the area north of San Diego. His dad is friends with one of the fathers of a Marine who died.
This small gesture is going to go a very long way, and I hope that all the families out there see that we remember the fallen victims. We remember each and every one of them, from the 13 in Afghanistan and the 5 in San Diego and the helo crash. Like, we're going to remember each and every one of them for the rest of time.
It's one of several ceremonies happening around the county, mostly outside of public view. including at North Island, home of the helicopter squadron, says Chaplain Commander Charles Luff.
I believe it gives our service members a chance that are struggling with this, a chance to find some closure, to find some peace at a moment here, and to reflect on their own service.
Funerals have been going on around the country as bodies return home. A makeshift memorial continues to form outside the gates of Camp Pendleton. On a less somber note, the first Marines from the unit sent to guard the airport in Kabul arrived overnight at Pendleton. The rest of Gulf Company of the 2nd Battalion 1st Marines is expected to return to a more public welcome in the coming days. Steve Walsh, KPBS News.
The man charged with carrying out a hate-motivated shooting at the Chabad of Poway has pleaded guilty today to all 113 federal counts. 22-year-old John T. Ernest previously pleaded guilty to murder and other state charges in the April 2019 attack. 60-year-old Lori Gilbert Kay was killed. 3 other people, including the congregation's rabbi and an 8-year-old girl, were injured. Ernest could have faced the death penalty in parallel state and federal prosecutions, but through his pleas, he's set to be sentenced to life in prison without parole. Our nation's capital is on high alert as law enforcement officials brace for potential violence ahead of a right-wing rally planned for this weekend. Chris Nguyen is in Washington, D.C. with a look at the security preparations underway.
We're not going to tolerate violence, and we will not tolerate criminal behavior of any kind.
Growing concerns over Saturday's Justice for J6 rally being held to support insurrectionists charged in the deadly January 6 Capitol riot. But event organizers insist it'll be peaceful.
No one's going to be bringing in a weapon who's going to be part of our crowd. I can assure the police that.
Yet a Department of Homeland Security memo is warning about the potential for violence as early as Friday, and Capitol Police aren't taking any chances.
We have now grown and expanded our intelligence operations, and we have dramatically changed the way that we process and share intelligence with our law enforcement partners at every level.
A new fence is up around the Capitol, and in addition to more security, the D.C. National Guard is expected to be on standby to provide help in case of an emergency.
There are also discussions about having separate rallies other places. So we are all over that with our state and local partners.
On Thursday, former President Donald Trump defended the Capitol rioters as people being persecuted so unfairly and continued to perpetuate false claims about the 2020 election being rigged. Experts are worried those comments could lead to more violence.
As we know from history and experience of extremist violence in this country, you don't necessarily have to have a large crowd to cause trouble and create unsafe situations.
In Washington, Chris Nguyen, KPBS News.
A federal judge has ruled that the government must stop using a public health order to refuse entry to migrant families at the border. Title 42, which was adopted under the Trump administration early in the pandemic, allows customs officials to quickly expel families to stop the spread of COVID-19. The Biden administration stopped expelling children but continues to remove adults traveling by themselves and some families. The ACLU's lawsuit argues the policy illegally deprives people of their right to seek asylum in the United States.
We said after World War II we would never send people back to danger without at least giving them a hearing, and yet that's what now Biden administration is doing. We thought it would end after the Trump administration, and it hasn't, and I think that should be troubling to everyone, not just people who advocate on behalf of asylum seekers.
The injunction ruling gives the government 14 days to stop the policy. The ACLU believes the Biden administration will likely appeal.
I'm Amna Nawaz. Tonight on the NewsHour, vaccine booster. The FDA debates who should get another shot. We break down the latest recommendation. That's coming up at 7, right after Evening Edition on KPBS.
Tomorrow is California Coastal Cleanup Day. As you'd expect, many cleanups are taking place by the coast. But KPBS reporter Melissa May tells us about a free county-wide event that is helping San Diegans clean up their homes, too.
Coastal Cleanup Day is a statewide event to help clean up litter and trash that could otherwise end up in the ocean. In honor of the day, Caltrans is collecting oversized household items at 4 different locations throughout San Diego County for free.
So we pretty much accept everything except for hazardous waste type things and biological waste.
Sean Rizzuto is a maintenance program advisor and senior transportation engineer for Caltrans. He says some of the items will be recycled or repurposed.
We have separate bins like for tires. So tires, we actually, that they can be ground up and turned into, entryway mats. We also use ground up tires in our asphalt, our RHMA, rubberized asphalt, hot mixed asphalt.
The Caltrans event is one of the many planned in the county. The city of San Diego has scheduled a cleanup in Ocean Beach starting at 9 Saturday morning. And there are events planned in the Mission Valley Preserve, the Tijuana River Valley, and in University City.
And make sure we maintain, the beauty of San Diego, and which we all appreciate every day, but that sometimes can be blighted by debris and litter.
You can volunteer for an event online at cleansd.org. Melissa May, KPBS News.
And Caltrans is accepting items from 7 to 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. To find the closest drop-off site to you, go to our website, kpbs.org. Crews are doing everything they can to save California's iconic giant sequoias from a wildfire that's expected to reach a grove of 2,000-year-old trees within days. The base of General Sherman, the world's biggest tree, is now wrapped in fire-resistant aluminum foil. Other trees and some buildings in the Sequoia National Forest are also getting the same treatment.
Happy Friday, everyone, and thanks for tuning in to KPBS News. I'm Marvin Gomez. Let's talk about our forecast here in San Diego County. During the next couple of mornings, the marine layer will continue to give us those morning low clouds across our area, and we're going to be talking about seasonably cool temperatures across many spots. During the middle of next week, temperatures are going to be trending once again above normal for this time of year. Here's a quick look at tonight's forecast. A couple of clouds, very little action. Mountain Laguna 61 degrees, Borrego Springs 71, San Diego we're cooling down into the mid 60s as we head into our Saturday. That onshore flow bringing again the marine layer into parts of central and southern California. Most of the southwest is going to stay on a warm note during the afternoon hours. And here's a quick look at San Diego County for tomorrow afternoon. Temperatures climbing up into the mid 70s across the downtown area. Mount Laguna 67, Borrego Springs 97 degrees for you. As we head into our Sunday, not a lot of changes. Both days of the weekend very similar. Here's a quick look at the forecast along the coast. Mid 70s for Saturday, Sunday, Monday of next week. Mostly sunny conditions for Monday. We are going to see a few more clouds into our Tuesday, and temperatures will get into the low 80s as we transition into our Wednesday. In inland areas, we're also going to see the warm up a little bit more pronounced, those 70s for this weekend, and low 90s into the middle of next week. Across the mountains, we're going to stay in the 60s for most of the next couple of days, but Wednesday we could be getting a little bit closer towards 70 degrees. The deserts, well, that's where we're going to find the hottest temperatures for sure. Mid and upper 90s for the next few days, and early next week we might be tracking some triple digits as we head into our Tuesday. I'm Marvin Gomez with your KPBS forecast.
The Thunderboats are back in town for San Diego Bayfair. As KPBS reporter Alexandra Rangel shows us, the powerboat races kicked off today and continue through the weekend in Mission Bay.
These are the world's biggest, fastest race boats in the world. We run over 200 miles an hour.
Six-time national champion Jimmy Shane is the driver of the U6 Miss Home Street, and he's looking to take home his 7th title this weekend. Dozens of drivers from across the country will be competing in different races. Bayfair board member Jim Kidrick says it's a spectacle you don't want to miss.
We've got nearly 1,000 motorhomes down here, great food vendors, a motorcycle show on Crown Point Shores on Saturday, a car show on Sunday.
Bayfair has been staged at Mission Bay since 1964, but it was postponed last year due to the pandemic. Kidrick says the event draws thousands of people to town, giving the local economy a boost.
We'll most likely see in the 80 to 100,000 people over the 3 days.
He says they're happy to continue the tradition this year.
Because this is the finest powerboat racing course in the world today. Mission Bay Park, as we see it, was actually built to bring this to San Diego.
For those planning to come on Saturday, races start early at 8 a.m. There's also a LED night show at 8 p.m. that you don't want to miss. To purchase your tickets, you can visit SanDiegoBayfair.org, and admission is free for active military and reservists. In Mission Bay, Alexandra Rangel, KPBS News.
It's been a long time since we've had an in-person Comic-Con, and soon people can get those long-awaited badges. Organizers sent out an alert this week letting everyone know that badges will go on sale next Saturday, September 25th at 11 a.m. It's all done online, and you'll need to register for a Comic-Con member ID in advance. SDSU's Miro Kopik has more on Comic-Con's return and what attendees need to know in the Friday Business Report.
This 3-day event is Thanksgiving weekend. For people who are interested in registering, it is a process. All individuals who want to buy tickets need to be a verified Comic-Con member before they can even purchase a ticket or be allowed into the waiting room. And then you're randomly selected to buy tickets. They're requiring either you to be vaccinated or to have a negative COVID test. And then there are masking requirements. For San Diego, it is such an important event. It is the single largest event held at the convention center by far. It brings in over $150 million in economic benefit. It fills the city coffers in terms of sales tax. It fills hotels and restaurants and retailers. Here, we're not going to see $150 million, but certainly about $100 million on a holiday weekend becomes very important for the city of San Diego. For those that want to come to the event and really enjoy re-immersing themselves into Comic-Con, there are some hurdles that they have to have, both in registering and making sure they stay safe for the event.
San Diego State University is using comics to teach students about critical thinking at a time when such skills are most needed. KPBS arts reporter Beth Accomando checks in on the class.
So how does a professor get students to sign up for a class with the dull title of English 157? Well, change the name.
I call it psychedelic mirrors, sex, drugs, and rock and roll. They say that the humanities are dying, but it's just not true. We just haven't marketed them in the right way.
William Noricchio is a professor of English and comparative literature at San Diego State University, and his marketing worked on Annika Huff.
Psychedelic mirrors was something out of the ordinary, and it was something that, like mirrors, like looking into yourself, like self-discovery, looking through the eyes of someone who could possibly be on psychedelics, like just a very, very strange, very rare and unique name for a course.
The course looks to history and comics.
The focus of the class is on the human psyche and how a group of brilliant artists like Robert Crumb and Dan Klaus, how they depict the intricacies of the human mind, but in comic books.
Now, a course on comic books might make some taxpayers think their money's being wasted, but it's not, says student Mei Yen Sung.
Comics may seem not as important as other academic subjects, but I feel like comics is something that's very interactive, and some people who might be more visual learners or some people who see comics as entertainment can also get educational value, and they could also see a lot of information and other things through comics.
I think it's more than just comics. I think it's critical thinking. I think it's analyzing text that one might just overlook as something that's a bunch of cartoons. I mean, I think it's important to always think for yourself, and that comes with critical thinking, and that's what fake news and TikTok and Instagram have kind of stripped people of recently, is their ability to think for themselves.
Noricchio sees comics as a way to get these students to think.
Yeah, could that woman be like, in a way, a metaphor for Kafka's family or his friends?
And for this class to think critically about how the images they see can affect them.
Robert Crumb is at great pains to show us where racism grows, and it grows through entertainment. What we're seeing are two young people on the streets of Prague watching an early form of a motion picture. Today, I was lecturing on how Robert Crumb, an underground cartoonist, frames an early form of motion pictures to show how susceptible people are to being racist pigs. If we see it in the movies, we're going to believe it. If we hear it on TV, we're going to believe it. If we see it on the internet, we're going to believe it.
Bill is not just a consumer of images, he's also challenges the students to deeply understand images.
I think it's why I was asked to teach a class about comics.
And also the world is awash with information, disinformation, and it's important to teach people to understand what the message is through the image, but also understand what the implications are of the image itself, and to think deeply through, okay, so I'm consuming this image, what does it mean for my thoughts? What does it mean for my actions?
I don't have the answer.
Each one of us will be confronted by ambiguities every day.
Write that down. Unapologetic curiosity.
If anything, literature prepares us much more for life than a course in botany.
Instead of trying to find a specific answer, you're really just broadening your own world perspective and the concepts and ideas that you might have already to become a more mature person. And so not necessarily as much about finding a specific answer, but maybe becoming someone who's more open-minded and overall well-rounded.
That's why we need classes like psychedelic mirrors.
Literature is one of the last places in the university for open dialogue, thought, and conflict. Thoughtful conflict, disagreement, argument, polemic. We've never had more of a need for our students to have the critical capacity to evaluate information.
Beth Accomando, KPBS News.
And you can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Have a great weekend.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley. And by the following: and by viewers like you. Thank you.